Delayed obedience is disobedience. Hey guys, it's Sai, aka Nkiru the Love Guru, and it has been 24 hours since my last confession. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today because you already know that I am. And back to give you guys a little bit of guidance and self-care, self-love, shadow work, and most importantly, accountability. You know what we do here on this podcast? We confess and take accountabilities for the areas of our lives that we can improve on. Today's confession is, I've allowed my own understanding to delay my obedience. Yes. When God tells us to do things, we have this, I don't know if it's we, I'll just say me, I'll just speak for myself. There comes this notion in our mind that we have to understand why we are doing this thing before we can start. But we have to throw that notion out of our head because it denotes a couple of things. It denotes that God doesn't know what he's doing. It shows that we do not trust him, and also shows that we are moving and operating in fear. God gives us a command. We are to adhere to them, whether we know the why or not. That is the expectation. When we delay our adherence to the plan, it delays other things that God has going on in the plan. We have to remember, this is God. God is juggling and maintaining everybody's life and moving it to a positive perspective, an expected end. So when we choose to be stagnant or worry or question or overthink, we are in disobedience and we are out of alignment with the plan that God has for us. So, this one's a doozy. This is one that I have struggled with for a while. I don't know about you guys, but we all have our things. But I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, and we talked about why this is such a hard thing to do, to get right. It's not that I don't trust God. It's that trust in some aspects has been tainted for me. When I think about people, when I think about my relationships or the behaviors of people, I think the issue is not applying those behaviors and relationships that I have had with people on God. People will fail you. This is why my favorite verse in the Bible is Psalms 118, verse 8. It's better to put your trust in the Lord than to put your confidence in man. People will fail you. But when we say that, we have to remember that God's thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. And so he is not like people. So the hesitation for me is like a knee-jerk reaction. And so the work comes in is deprogramming that reaction and shifting it to a different command. When God says move, move. When God says wait, wait. When God says go, go. When God says leave or stay or jump or anything, I do that. That is the new command. So let's read in his word, get to this Bible, and see what some of this has to say about obedience, and see if it will give us some good advice. Turn to the book of Isaiah. Isaiah is in the Old Testament. It is after the Song of Solomon, but before Jeremiah. We'll read Isaiah chapter 1, verse 19. And it says, if ye be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land. I'm going to read 22. But if ye refuse and rebel, ye shall be devoured with the sword, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. Obedience is better than sacrifice. If we be willing and obedient, we shall eat the good of the land. This is something that should help build our trust. All right, turn to the book of Proverbs. Proverbs is before Psalms, after Psalms and before Ecclesiastics. We'll read Proverbs 13:13 first. Proverbs 13:13. Sorry, my pages are sticky. Uh-oh. All right. Whoso despises the world shall be destroyed, but he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded. So we can choose to love the world or love God. We love God by keeping his commandments. So whosoever despises the world, whoso despises the world shall be destroyed. But he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded. So we have to understand that our job is to be obedient to what God commands for us to do. That's priority number one. Turn to Proverbs 28. We'll read verse 14. Proverbs 28 and 14. And it reads, happy is the man that feareth away always, but he that hardeneth his heart shall fall into mischief. So this is kind of like talking about happy is the person that is inside of obedience, inside of the plan of God, inside of the walk of God, inside of the blueprint of God. But the man that hardens his heart to comply to what God is asking for him to do, you fall into mischief. And Satan is the god of mischief. So it's either one or not the other. We can't say that we are children of God, but we won't listen to him. You just can't. That's a part of it. Turn with me to Psalms. We'll start at 33. Psalms chapter 33. Psalms chapter 33, verse 18. And it reads, behold, the eye of the Lord is upon them that fear him, upon them that hope in his mercy. And then we'll read Psalms 37 and 18. And it reads, the Lord knoweth the days of the upright, and their inheritance shall be forever. So this is talking, both of those verses are talking about the Lord watching, keeping his eye on those who fear him, and he knows the days of those who are doing right. So God is watching us, and God is taking an account for us in our lives, in our walk. He's doing that. So it's not enough to just believe in God or know God. We must also love him by keeping his commandments and being obedient to the call that he has over our lives as well. All right, let's go to the New Testament. Let's go to Matthew. Matthew's first book in the New Testament. Let's go to 22. Let's see what Jesus has to say about all of this. Matthew 22. We'll read 36 through 40. And it reads, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? And Jesus said unto them, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is likened unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the laws and prophets. So in learning how to love, properly love God, love yourself, and love others, every commandment, everything that God has instructed us to do falls within the scope of those three things: loving God, loving ourselves, loving others. So God would never command you to do something outside of the scope of that. It says, in these two commandments hang all the law and all the prophets. So everything that God has ever asked from you is from a place of love. Everything. He's never asked you to do something that wasn't from a place of love. So keep that in mind. Turn with me to Acts. Acts is after John, before Romans. Acts chapter 5. Acts chapter 5 and verse 29. Acts 5 and 29, and it reads, Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey God rather than man. That's right, Peter. We ought to obey God rather than man. That's a smart plan. So when you are questioning what you should do or what you ought to do in a situation, if the two conflict, if what God is wanting you to do is conflicting with what man is asking you to do, then I promise you'll never go wrong by adhering to what God is asking you to do. God is your father. You are a child of God. You're not a child of men. You're a child of God. So you ought to listen to your father. Turn with me to Ephesians. Ephesians is after Galatians and before Philippians. We'll read Ephesians 6 and 1. And it reads, Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for it is right. We are children of God. It is right for us to obey our parent, our heavenly parent. So we ought to obey God as he is commanding us. It is what is right to do. It is the only right thing to do, because he knows what he is asking us to do. Turn with me to 1 Peter. 1 Peter is after James and before 2 Peter. 1 Peter 1 and 14. 1 Peter 1 and 14. And it reads, As obedient children, not fashioning yourself according to the former lusts of your ignorance. So God is asking us to be as obedient children, not fashioning ourselves according to our former lusts in our ignorance. So we don't need to fashion ourselves or go on to our own understanding. That's really and truly what that's saying. Don't go on to, when I did this before. Your experience is a part of your former lust or your former understanding. So stick with being obedient. You cannot go wrong when you focus on being in alignment with God's plan and his timing. Okay, turn with me to 1 John. 1 John is after 2 Peter. And we'll read from chapter 3, verse 22. 1 John 3:22. And it says, and whatsoever we ask, we receive of him, because we keep his commandments and do those things that are pleasing in his sight. God will provide for you. He will take care of you. He's going to do everything that needs to be done because we are his children. We keep the commandments of him. We do righteous works in his eyes by being obedient to the call that he has over our lives. And as long as we are in alignment with that, we will always be provided for, always be protected, and always have proper provision over our future. All right, guys, let me get you one more, and then we're going to go ahead and get up out of here. Turn with me to John. John is after Luke, before Acts. We'll read John chapter 14, verse 15. John 14:15. And it says, if ye love me, keep my commandments. That's Jesus speaking. We say we love a lot of things. This is how we can prove it. When we are confused about what to do, it's not our job to understand. It's our job to walk. It's our job to walk on water. Have a little bit of faith. Faith that the Creator, the God who made you, would never let you fall. Will never steer you in the improper direction. Have faith and be obedient. Well, that's all that I have for you all today, but I can't leave without giving you guys an action item. Today's action item, the question of the day, is when have you hesitated to do what God asked you to do? What prevented your immediate obedience to his command? When have you hesitated to do what God asked you to do? What prevented your immediate obedience to his command? When have you hesitated to do what God asked you to do? What prevented your immediate obedience to his command? Now, I will encourage you to journal your responses so that you have a working space for the self-improvement work you are doing. Doing this extra step will help you see where you are going and where you have been. That's it for today's episode, but you know we will be back every morning at 9 a.m. You are welcome to listen wherever is comfortable for you. We stream on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, Pandora, and iHeartRadio. Well, you know that I love you guys, and it's probably because you're so dang lovable. And if you don't know that about you, if no one has told you this, I need you to tell yourself that you are loved, you are loving, and you are so lovable. I hope that you have the most fabulous, wonderful, amazing, miraculous, purposeful, abundant day. See all of your beautiful, beautifully obedient faces tomorrow. Bye.